TAUNY's mission is to do research about and present educational programs to the public about traditional culture and local life in northern New York State. The emergence of interest in barn quilts for us is an interesting new development, and we don't know where it's going, but it has the potential to be something that the future looks back on and sees as a tradition that started around this time. And certainly barn quilts are connected to the cultural practice of quilting in our region. And it's not a top-down project, it's people in the communities saying, we're very interested in this, we think this has potential to bring visitors to our region, let's do it. There's real interest in the quilts themselves and what they mean for the individuals who paint them and put them on their homes and their barns. But there's also a sense that other people will be interested in this and we can make something good happen here together. And I find that really interesting as a model for economic development.
Well, one of the things that we're doing in the town of Colton through our tourism and beautification activities is really focusing on heritage tourism. And there's a lot of dimensions to heritage tourism, but in this community there's a prolific, vibrant network of quilters. And every year during Winterfest we highlight quilting as part of our annual festival. And so we thought that barn quilts would be a nice permanent fixture in the community to remind everybody of the heritage of the community and the continuing trend of people being quilters. It's not a dead artwork, it's very much vibrant and alive in this community. All right, this year, as part of the Winterfest Quilt Show, we are actually highlighting barn quilts, which are a very fascinating new project for the town of Colton, but other communities within St. Lawrence County are involved. And I did one which is now hanging on the front of Catamount Lodge, and it's a variation of the bear paw quilt pattern. And actually the quilt that it is, the quilt that's the display is sitting on is actually a bear paw quilt. And I think it gives you a good indication of what a traditional bear paw quilt pattern looks like versus the barn quilt that I created for the lodge. In addition, the town of Colton now has a barn quilt on the side of the Colton Museum. It's the Little Red Schoolhouse pattern, and that was chosen by the Colton Historical Society working with the town's Tourism and Beautification Committee as the block that they'd like to do, because the museum was actually a school at one time, used as a school at one time. And also the Historical Society has done an oral history project with the help of TAUNY on one-room schoolhouses in the community. In addition to trying to reinforce heritage tourism as kind of our signature approach to tourism in this community. We're also trying to increase people's pride in this place. And I think one of the things that can be done to improve pride is just to take care of places. And so our hope is also that by having barn quilts on buildings, it will also encourage people to maintain the buildings so that they're nicer looking and better reflect the care that people have for the community.
Okay, Missy, Cassie, you got it?
Now we just need to clean up, and then we gotta
Actually,
And just stretch along the side there. That's lovely.
What? Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start moving. I need 4 people to help me move
Wonderful.
these murals.
All right, there you go.
Did you find the teal, honey? It's over the middle table.
not these.
So you guys know what the name of this quilt block pattern is, right? Do you know what it is?
Oh, let it go, but Elsie's not into it.
The actual pattern is called the Little Red Schoolhouse. So this is actually a schoolhouse.
So,
Like the old one-room schoolhouses?
Yeah.
this last part,
We actually did
Yeah, last year
Yeah,
we
that's
did
what I was gonna do.
like
I'm
a
gonna
day
straighten it
where we
out.
had to dress in like dresses and stuff,
cool.
and we went to a one-room class.
Oh, did you? Oh, did you go to Cook's Corner?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice schoolhouse to go to.
Yeah.
we're just going to have to keep rubbing
Well,
it down.
the museum
And then the
was
rest
a
of the tape we
school
need
at
for
one
that.
time. When the school in town burned,
Masking tape.
like in the
Because
1940s,
we also went there. And
the
we
museum.
went over that. All the stories
Oh,
about
good.
all the different schoolhouses.
Oh, good. I'm glad you went there.
It's kind of cool how like it's been spreading. It's like it started out as a generation, and now it's going to like each different states, and it's going around the states.
How they all sort of tell a story about their specific idea, like where we're putting it. It tells the story about our school, how it burnt down, and how that became a specific area where certain people stayed.
I originally became involved with Winterfest my very first year. The Winterfest committee, the town board of beautification, I always miss
Tourism and Beautification.
tourism and beautification
Committee, yes.
committee was pulling me to get involved, and I was really inspired by everything Winterfest did with the community, and always wanted to have an art program that tied into the community. And so when they asked about Winterfest, I jumped on board, and then the Barn Quilt project seemed like the next logical step of being part of a bigger community throughout all of St. Lawrence County. And the more we can get the kids' artwork out in the community, the better it is. I think with the Winterfest murals as well as these, I think that it's a chance for our students to come back in 10 years and be like, you know, when I was young, I painted that mural, and it continues a tradition. And there's a lot of pride in this. I mean, you've probably heard the students saying, "We're going to be, we're going to be famous. We're going to have these, and everyone's going to see it." That's really exciting. And I think that as this tradition continues, it's going to be something that the children can really get behind and be really proud of.
Colton is kind of becoming more aware of itself in a way, and of the community as really being a wonderful place to live and recreate and to do business in. And one of the things that we can do with the school, the town can do with the school, is do projects like this to help people be more proud of the community. And I think this will instill greater pride.
Definitely, and it gives, again, more of that sense of identity.
It
like
does.
We have our own identity.
A sense of
as well.
place. I love the notion of a sense of place, and I think things like this fit well with Colton.
Yes, definitely.
The St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce has a business network of about 500 business members, and we also are the tourism promotion agent for the county. So St. Lawrence County designated us, and we work with I Love New York to promote the assets of St. Lawrence County to the greater world. There are a number of strong organizations in the county working towards art development. TAUNY, St. Lawrence County Arts Council, that are working not just to kind of enjoy art, but to look at it as a business for some people. And I think the idea of having them on barns, because we are an agricultural area, that connection of a strong heritage of of art and also the Amish culture here, which is often associated with quilting, and then to attach it to the barns that we have around the area is just a perfect melding of great assets in our history and tradition.
Well, with me, we've driven around a few of the states, and sometimes you get in an area where it was long and drawn out. All of a sudden, you see a pretty barn quilt, and it kind of livened things up and made it kind of exciting and something to talk about. And I've been through Pennsylvania, where all the Amish are, and there's tons of barn quilts down there and quilting trails, and it just was interesting. So.
Yeah. Well, I saw the informational meeting online advertised over in Hammond, and because I've been an amateur quilter for a long time, just because it said quilt, it drew my attention. And my husband and I went over to the meeting, but after I saw that headline introducing that meeting, I did some research online and saw that there are barn quilt trails all over the United States. It's really becoming more and more popular, and it just appealed to me because of the North Country's heritage and farming industry, that it may really latch on around here. So I wanted to learn more about it, so I went, and I did.
I'm just impressed with the whole thing, and we just wanted to do something a little different.
And we're all crafty.
And we have a barn that needed a quilt. So we have one.
And it's beautiful. It is gorgeous.
Yeah, very colorful.
It is.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to make you see.
Yes, I have stories behind it. I've painted two. And I do have one out in the barn. It's 42 inches by 42 inches. We were on our 50th anniversary trip across the states. And we stopped at this beautiful little cabin. And in the cabin they had this little wall hanging, and they had the same pattern on a quilt. And it was just adorable. So I took a picture when I was in the room, and that's how I did the one out in the barn. I favored that. And then the other one that I've done relates to my 4 children, 9 grandchildren, 2 sons-in-laws, and 1 daughter-in-law.
I like to think simpler is better.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
I think that's very true.
I really enjoy just getting in the car with, like, my sister, my husband, my mom, you know, and you just spend time together and you talk.
And you talk.
There's no electronics.
Mm-hmm.
There's no computer. There's no Facebook. There's just time to talk and look. And there's so many beautiful things in the North Country, and I think the barn quilts would just enhance the natural beauty of St. Lawrence County.
Well, I think it would help the economy because we have a lot of tourists coming in with, you know, the St. Lawrence River, the college parents. I can see like a farm of distinction and having something on their barn that related to their farm. I can just see so many interesting stories. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of history up here in this area, and I think we could capitalize on that.
I like the fabric, the feel of it. I like shapes and designs, and I've always liked the geometric looks. I wanted to do something that would last for a while, and I try to have, you know, good quality fabrics, good sewing, and I've had a lot of these pieces for 30 or 40 years. I wrote a book, and it was called Star Quilts, and on the walls are some of the pictures that were in the book. And again, I drafted up the designs, and I wanted a way that people could take that design and make it any size easily without doing calculations. And that part of my idea for doing these was to draw something that would go on a barn eventually. And so in the book there are directions on how to draw barn size quilts. I read an article in the TI Sun, the little local newspaper, and it said there were a couple ladies from Hammond that wanted to do a barn quilt trail. I was like, oh yes. So then I wandered into downtown Hammond, and I live in that area all summer long. Found the people that had started this group and said, I can show you how to draw these. I can do these in my sleep. And from there, a wonderful friendship started. 2 art teachers in it. One lady that cannot quilt, but she can sew, and she likes doing fun things. There are a few people in there that do sew and quilt. Some of them are doing the publicity, a few are doing the history behind this stuff. So it's a perfect mesh of a lot of different people. And the other people in the community that I've met too, I enjoy them. I've lived on the St. Lawrence River in the summer for probably 40 years, and I never had such a warm group to work with. I showed up at their next meeting, and I came in with my props. I had a couple designs and drawings, and they just, said, wow. And I said, I can draw anything you want. And they had, some of their own ideas, but they were into the idea of how are we going to promote this to the community. They're a farming community. They are in a beautiful area, and they wanted to draw tourists there. And so they wanted to do something that would be community oriented, but also would involve getting people into the area. And I thought, oh wow, this is great, because so many of my designs date way back, and you can come up with an element, like whether it's swallows or fish or trees. So we were just a group that, we meshed. I have seen people in other areas that have been interested in this. And so I think Hammond will become a jumping off point for a lot of other communities. They will say, well, what can you tell us? How did you get your start? Part of our committee's job was to pick a few states, search them out online to see what their barn quilt projects are like. And so I picked New York, Florida, Montana, and Arkansas. Good old New York State had just about the best.
That's what they had. So I'll just have to be very careful with the edges.
Smushing it down.
Yeah.
Before you paint.
I thought it wasn't 3M when I bought it.
So this is our lovely studio, and we're very pleased to have the town board helping us with this room, because we had no place to set up, especially in the wintertime. Then we have our different boards that we're working on. Our quilt barn squares. This one's for the town barn. And that one's for the village hall, and that's a personal one of Jen McGregor's for her farm. And then we have the Hammond Museum's barn quilt being worked on over there. And Liz Bodden's she's another farmer who's putting her square together for her barn. And Mary Knapp's experiments over there. Experiments with color and wow, beautiful designs. And then we just put together this map today of some of the locations of where the barn quilts are going so far in Hammond. I guess the green ones are where they're actually hanging, and then the red ones are all the ones that are done, but they're not hanging up yet. So this is really exciting. We're going to show this to a town board and the village board and show them that we're really taking off, blasting off. We put these little flyers just to tell people what a barn quilt trail is. And so we put this in all the restaurants and the businesses around town. That's the little logo with the sunset behind it, because Hammond is full of sunset, and the open barn doors, the idea that we want to be open to all the tourism in the community. I love the idea that our community would be connected with the old barns and then all the artwork on it, because I'm an art teacher, so I love the idea of the artistic part of it. And then quilters, there's a million quilters around here, and combining all those things together was just a really great idea. My husband gave me the idea, actually. I'm very involved with the monarch butterflies, and was teaching that to my elementary students. And he suggested, why don't you do something about a monarch butterfly? And so I put all their life cycle, parts of the life cycle of a butterfly into the barn quilt.
I went to a couple of meetings where Lisa Safferty, who's the chairperson of the Barn Quilt Committee, was presenting, and her enthusiasm really kind of sparked an interest in me. And I have a deep heritage in Hammond. My family's been here for 5 generations and part of the Scottish immigrant settlement that came to Hammond originally. Well, I wanted to come up with an idea that would, again, showcase my family's heritage. And my family has, being a McGregor Scottish name, has a Scottish tartan. And in my garden at home, from my grandmother and my mother before me, we have Scottish thistles that grow there. So my barn quilt is a combination of the Scottish thistle and the Scottish McGregor tartan colors.
Yeah, I have a 4x4 version at home that's getting ready to be hung on our barn. I got the pattern, it's very traditional. The Ohio Star is a very traditional pattern, but my mother, whom I taught to quilt, and she far surpassed me in quilting, made a traditional Civil War quilt before she passed away, and this was one of the squares that was on the quilt, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit.
Well, we're using the wedding rings, which kind of symbolizes joining together, I guess, and then we have symbols of different nationalities, Canadian, Irish,
Scottish,
and Native American in the corners. And then we're using the St. Lawrence plaid around the edge, which is what we're trying to figure out right now.
It'll represent the businesses that have been in the area in the past and in the present at the time being.
You know, I've made a few quilts in my life, but I'm not like an avid quilter or anything. But after the first meeting, I just was casually flipping through one of the quilt pattern books I have just to see what struck me. And it took me about 9 seconds to find the pattern that I'm using. It's called Storm at Sea. And I said, that is a perfect metaphor for farming. Next problem.
And I think this will appeal to all interests, all levels. People will look at it, they'll identify. There are often comments where someone will say, oh yeah, my grandmother used to make quilts. And so there's commonality. It's a very down-home type of art, and it's being put up on display so you can see it from a distance. You don't have to be right on top of it. And I think it will attract.
A lot of backgrounds today, and we saw 2 new barn quilts in the Boister.
Oh, wow.
Camilla had sent a note about somebody at Quilting. Yeah. I think it's probably the Quilting mailing them, but it's actually in the Boister.
Yeah.
Meeting that we were at when Lisa and Nancy showed up, and you're going to hear from me also that they were very enthusiastic, and with their spirit, it made us very enthusiastic about the whole idea. And yes, we were very quick to commission a barn quilt, and Pam Winchester did a wonderful job on that quilt. I'm sure you saw it during the tour today, and it had 9 buildings on there representing the different buildings around the village.
I do want to mention that I think this barn quilt thing is a great thing for our town. I can see, I think a lot of you share a vision that I have of this area becoming a cultural showcase of what we can produce and what we have produced here.
So when I heard, it was probably over a year ago that somebody caught my ear and said that they were thinking about doing this. I think many of us have traveled to places where they might have decorated horses out in front of their houses, or trolls, or different types of things. And when they mentioned this barn quilt idea, I thought, oh, you could not pick anything more perfect for the North Country and for farming communities.
Barn quilting in general, I do want to give respect and proper credit to a woman named Donna Sue Groves, who who really invented the idea. I so admire, because it's one of those things that once it's invented is completely obvious. Well, of course you would do this, but before the of course there's a void, right? There's nothing. Projects I love. So I loved this because it was a project and because I love this community, and I knew it would be so. I knew I would enjoy. I mean, really, it's a very selfish thing. Like, I want to drive around and see these on the barns in the town that I live in. People select themselves, obviously. There were many people who did things very peripherally. There are a lot of people who did things very centrally. And so we just kind of gathered a committee and we said, okay, let's meet. We just wanted to do it as a small ad hoc community, but we wanted to tell people what we were doing. Not so that they would do things for us. Like, we didn't want to go to the town or the village or the museum. Those are the main places that we made presentations. And say, this is what we want to do. What will you do for us? No. Just, this is what we want. This is what we're going to do. We'd like you to know. We think it will be really good for the town. Would you like to participate? No. And if you don't, no problem. No cost. Basically no cost to you. But this is what we're going to do. Not only is it beautiful, but it's not just something that ladies do. It actually will bring business to town. And this is a tourism area, so it will help bring more tourism to our town, to eat in our restaurants, to go to the marinas, to stay overnight at our bed and breakfasts, all those kinds of things. So my goal would be to keep it vibrant, to keep it one activity a year that again draws attention to it, brings people, sort of just refreshes the whole idea. And she was telling her friend Lisa that the best thing about having a barn quilt is every time she drives in her driveway, she just feels so cheerful. It's sitting right there, and she drives in and goes, oh, I love this. So I would say joy. I really think that it brings joy to people. So I would like it to continue to, as I say, there's three things: bring joy to the individual, bring civic pride and a sense of community to the whole town, and then continue to bring people here as an economic benefit. So just to try and keep touching on all those three.
So congratulations, we're here, and this is our opening, and we're so happy, and we're really glad you're supporting us, the Barn Quilt Trail, the Hammond Barn Quilt Trail.
Sitting in your kitchen, coffee on the table, talking about the morning and singing a song. There's so much we have to do now, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Sitting in your kitchen, hands across the table, looking for some answers in each other's eyes. There's so much we have to find out, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Sitting in your kitchen, cards are on the table, we're gambling for some high stakes, but nothing to lose. There's so much that we could win now, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Sitting in my kitchen, your letters on the table, telling what you're up to, and how you are. Well, I've got a song to sing you, so I'd better get a move on, move on. Try it with us, sitting in your kitchen, sitting in your kitchen, coffee on the table, coffee on the table, talking about the morning, talking about the morning, and singing a song. So much we have to do, so much we have to do now.